in the back, just like, that was a cool shot. I didn't realize he flipped it over his back like that. That was really like, that little guy must be really strong. There's no like wires or any of that stuff. Like there's no, they shot the movie relatively cheaply. I think it was like around $1 million. And for what we're used to seeing is like action films, that's actually very, that's like a fraction of, that's like anywhere from like, it could be 1/10 of what you usually spend on a movie like this, or like a 50th, so, yeah, it was pretty incredible. I've actually, just as a side note, I've done a ton of interviews with Gareth, the director, so I actually have heard a lot of his stories about making it, so if you guys do, I think we're going to do some questions and stuff, and I have questions about that kind of stuff too. I might have a few answers.
Well, let's talk about why you chose this film to be the movie that you would score.
Okay. Well, what happened was, this is my first score. We did a little bit, my bandmates and I did a little bit of stuff in Transformers 2 when we put a song in that movie, and we were in town at the time between tours, so we did some work on that, did a few scenes. And that was really fun, it got me excited about it. I kind of always had a curiosity about doing this, but that was the first time I really got any hands-on experience, and it was really exciting. So a few people have come to me since then asking if I want to do a full-length picture, and I thought, usually I thought I just wouldn't have time, and it wouldn't work out. Like at the timing was always bad, or like the approach was bad. And oftentimes the thing that was so like the worst was like they're coming to me saying, "Hey, we love Linkin Park. Like we like do Linkin Park on our movie, and then we can put your name really big on it." And that's like the opposite of what I want to do. Because it's like I think if they're gonna have, usually when they're saying that, they're saying, "Hey, we're gonna have somebody else really score the movie, and then you're gonna throw some guitars on it, and then it's gonna be Linkin Park, and then all our Linkin Park fans are gonna go watch it and go like, that's lame. That's not what we came to hear." And interesting, So these guys called me and said, we really love the Linkin Park stuff. We love Fort Minor, and we love the remixes you've done, and a lot of stuff like that I do for fun. And so I knew it would be kind of a fun experience. I could probably, get away with, since it's this is the director's second movie ever, and it's, I figured I could kind of work through some mistakes, and it would be okay. Like he's growing, I'm growing, like I'm figuring it out, he's figuring it out, and that's kind of what, what ended up happening. But to help out with the, I did have a tour that came like right in the middle of scoring it, and I hired a guy by the name Joe Japanese, who was Daft Punk's scoring partner on Tron. And he also did some work on like M83's album. He's done some other stuff too. That's really, I just think he's really, I got the sense he was really talented, and I called a bunch of people to see, I interviewed him, I interviewed a few other people, but once I talked to him, it was like over. So he was obviously the guy with more of a classical background, composition, arranging, and stuff like that could kind of lead me through the workflow and also add some of that other, experience.
So what did you learn from this process?
The main thing is that, for me, I'm used to writing like stuff that I want when it comes on the radio, I want it to like grab you and pull you into the song, and you pay attention, and it's like a personal, there's a connection, and it's hooky and whatever, but there's also a personal connection, and it's an honest story coming from us. And in this type of a thing, clearly the story is coming from the script, the actors, the director, and I've got to play a supporting role. So as soon as I started doing stuff that I normally would do on a song, it started distracting you. Like it was really anything hooky to that, to that end was like all of a sudden you're like, oh, that sounds cool, and you lost the story entirely for like 2 minutes. You don't know what they were just saying or doing or whatever, and that was always bad. So I had to turn that down a lot in making this. Yeah, I think that.
To me, the thing that's surprising about this film is, unlike an American movie that would start with a humongous fight scene and then the rest of the movie would just be trying to top that, this is this slow build, and then it gets more and more intense. And tell us about the process of scoring with sort of that slow build in mind.
We did, what we did on this was, like the first week, I decided that I wanted to kind of create a palette of sounds, like you do for, I have a background in illustration, so the palette of sounds is important. It's like, what colors do you use, what colors do you not use? The guitar, which I mentioned earlier, I thought like if we use too much guitar, or any guitar for the most part, it would start to turn it into like this kind of like, it could get corny really fast, you know? It could be like, you know, WWE instead of like what this movie is, you know? And not that WWE is corny, if you're a fan of that. But
It's a little corny.
no, but the point is like it gave it the wrong vibe. And so we cut, I said we're not gonna do that, and let's do something more traditional with the strings and the piano and organic instruments. We'll put those in the parts that are more like family oriented, or he's with his brothers, which is really his SWAT team, is, you know, his character says, Rama says in a couple scenes that those are his brothers, you know, whatever. So we save those for those things. And then, you know, the movie, it's built in a way, I don't know if you guys, you know, I've seen it 100 times, so it's built in a way that, like, it's almost like a video game where he starts on the lowest level, and as he goes up, it's like tougher and tougher enemies. And also what happens is they run out of, first they come in with guns, and it's not one of those, like, you know, in like, I imagine the American version being like, they come in with the guns, but they start fighting with their fists anyway, and that's like so stupid, like who would do that? But that's what happens in American like action movies. And so these guys come with their guns, and they use their guns until they can't use them anymore. And then they've got to move to like machetes and knives and things, and then when the machetes and knives are gone, then they're using their fists. And they go up and up and up in levels, and the final like fight is really like the toughest guy that's so tough that it takes two guys to beat him. And if you really watch it, Rama's the main character. His brother in that last fight scene, he's like really not doing much, like because he's just not good enough to do anything except like pin the guy once in a while, or grab his legs, or get himself flipped over, and then Rama can come in and like he's distracted, and then he can beat on the guy. But like it's very, to that extent, that I think the director was pretty. It's more realistic. There's not so much like smoke and mirrors. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's at least enough of an element of reality for me that I'm like I get drawn into it more because of that, I think.
Now, did you add colors to the palette, as you were saying, as it built different instruments at different times, or was it sort of the same thing but a different kind of intensity?
It definitely gets more chaotic as it goes. Like the beginning, the earliest cues are more like rigid. They're more, well, okay, I guess there's the string cues that kind of starts off with, so that's an exception. But as soon as they're like in like SWAT team mode, everything is very digital and rigid and precise, because that's how they're operating. But then as soon as they start to kind of like get picked off and it's chaos, then you get a lot more like those big drum instruments that are like there was like a grid going when I'm writing it, like it's on a click or whatever, but they're not quantized, meaning it's not like put straight on the beat. Like you can do that with all of your hits, but we left the feel in there so that they were very like, you can hear the drums like kind of collapsing on themselves at certain points. Just because it added to it was more appropriate. It just seemed like that's what they were going through.
And so was there a different style for their enemies?
Yeah, we did, rather than doing like themes, John Williams is a great, easy example. Like, if you think of, the themes that he applied to characters, Star Wars, you've got a theme for all the main characters, whatever, and those are musical themes. Those are notes, and you can play those with different instruments and in different situations and play them different ways, and then you could play whatever's appropriate for the scene. But for this, we did some of those musical themes, but we did, for some characters, it was actually just, we fell into this thing that we realized that some characters, it was really just one sound. Like every time you hear this, you see this one character, or somebody's thinking about a character, even, it's like kind of a subliminal thing, that we give you a little hint of that sound, and then you feel it, you know.
When is it coming out?
We don't know. I mean, it's like I roughly saying like late summer, early fall. So that's it. That's the best we can say right now, because it's not done. So if we run into any major speed bumps, it could be slightly later. But I feel good about it. We got a lot of material already. What else?
Can you elaborate on the sound? Because I read an article today about what Chester talking about it.
Yeah.
And he talked a little bit
about
about
the record.
Yeah, the record. And talking about kind of has like this hybrid theory guitar feel, but it also has like a.
That's Kerrang that said that.
Right.
And if you read Chester's part, he specifically says like it's not metal.
Right.
It's got an energy of like. Here's the bottom line. Kerrang put a bunch of words in his mouth, and they put a little pie chart, which I thought was funny because they put something about like choruses as big as a dinosaur on steroids or something. And I thought it was just so they're hilarious because they're so about that. But the thing I think the thing that I hear on it is like the band being like comfortable in their own skin, and I know he said that too. Like that's what it's really about. It's like. I think for a couple of records we've been really interested in just going like trying out new things, like just trying out new things. Other stuff falls into that, like you pull from your toolbox to get there, right? But we were most excited about making different sounds, and I think that at this particular moment the guys were feeling like, you know, not scared. It's almost like I felt like when I got to college and I knew who I was. At some point, like you just kind of like figure it out, and there was a point that we all just kind of looked at each other and said, okay, like we're not scared of using the whole like toolbox now. And it's not. Don't mistake that for me saying like formula either. It's not formulaic at all. It's like we know certain things work in certain situations in a song when you're writing, and to intentionally like not use those tools is kind of, you know, we were seeing that at that point as like being not where we're at. It's kind of like we want to be able to do whatever. So it's like new and old all together at once is the best way I can tell you. Yeah.
Going back to the scoring, are you thinking about doing another movie or any other projects if time allows you?
Yeah. I'm excited about it. It's just a matter, you know, it's like we're going to be busy this year with the band. If anything's come up that work into the schedule and I can kind of do them. I don't know why I do this to myself. I'm piling on stuff on, but you know, if it works out and it seems reasonable, then I'll probably do some more stuff. I don't think, by the way, that I don't think it would be another like action thing, just because, you know, it's like after having done this, I think I want to stretch out in a different direction.
What genre?
What genre?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the more like, I don't know, kind of like a cerebral kind of thriller thing. I love like Christopher Nolan. I love, what are some of my favorite movies? I love Seven. I love Shining. The dark stuff, but you know, stuff with some like, there's some meat to it. You know what I mean? It's not just about like this movie. One thing I did like about this is that there was like there's some story in there, and it's not the violence and the like gross out factor is secondary to the actual fighting. Like you can tell that he's actually really into the fighting aspect, and then the blood comes secondary to that. Not just like I'm putting something on the screen to just gross you out and get the shock value, and that's number one. That I'm not so into that.
That was like number 3.
What made you decide not to sing or rap on the soundtrack?
It's complicated, but yeah, the only voices you'll hear on it. There's two. So we put the sound. By the way, in case you guys didn't already know, we put that out. Was that today?
Yeah.
Today. It's the Raid soundtrack.com is where you can get. That's the only place you can get the physical album. You can get the digital there as well.
And iTunes.
And it's on iTunes and stuff. Yeah. The only songs. I just, you know, a score is a score. Like there's, you know. That's why we've been calling a score. In fact, you know, we also got the RaidScore.com. I feel like this is a score. You know, it's not a collection of beats and tracks that they just mashed up into the movie. I really wanted to approach it from a more traditional. Even though the music is very non-traditional, I wanted to approach it in a more traditional way. So I clearly adding vocals and stuff like that over top. Some of this stuff would be really distracting, I think. Oh, you know what it's like? It's like when I was a kid, we used to, we had like an upright piano in the living room, and my brother and I and like a couple friends from the neighborhood, we always played in the living room and stuff, and I had taken classical piano since I was like 3, so you know, I would just sit there, like, sometimes we joke around, and my brother could play, our neighbor, this girl Carolyn, we could all play. So like we'd be screwing around like whatever we're doing in the room, and one of us would be at the piano like playing the soundtrack to it. Like, you know, you're like somebody's sneaking around the corner and it's mysterious, like, you know, it's sly. It was like, you know, it's the same thing. I mean, we're just having fun, you know. And I think a lot of people who like play an instrument, especially piano, you know, you get that idea. It's the same thing like when people like, you know, you got a little video camera or something at your disposal. You've got your phone and iMovie, like a lot of young people like throw together a little movie or whatever. You know, it's almost like testing it out and seeing if it's something that you actually end up latching onto and keep doing. Yeah. So one more.
Taking aside the fact that I'm a Linkin Park fan, for film producers to come to you and say, pitch a movie to you, what do you want to hear for you to become involved in a movie? What excites you about it? What would impress you and say, I have to do the score. I really want to be involved with these people. I really want to be involved in this movie.
I mean, like I
Did you guys hear the question back there?
What
motivates you? What excites you? You know.
You know, they. In this case, it was the fact that it's an independent film, Indonesian film. A lot of things that I felt were like it has a unique kind of formula it has a unique DNA. You know, and it's also this is more of a classic action film to me than anything that's like out right now. Like you haven't seen a movie like this in like decades, right? So it's kind of like that was cool. That was really exciting to me. And then for the next thing, it would have to be, you know, whatever that uniqueness is. It has to. It's on its own, you know, plane. It can't be like anything like this. Like if you just show me like some Raid knockoff, I'm gonna be. it's silly, right? It's got to be. It'll have to have its own magic, and it'll also have to work in between Linkin Park tours. Thank you guys very much for coming. By the way, if you don't mind, of course, this movie is like. It's clearly not like your, you know, even though it is Sony Pictures Classics, it's not showing everywhere. It's just opening in a few cities. It's a smaller movie. So any of the you know, help you can give us by telling your friends about it, tweeting about it, telling them you were here, take a picture of the poster outside, whatever you want to do. That's appreciated. Yeah, if you do that, make sure to like let me know on Twitter. I'm on M_Shinoda. We're of course on Linkin Park, at Linkin Park as well. And
at The Raid US.
Yeah, The Raid US is that's the Twitter handle for the actual folks that are like doing the Raid promo. So if you do, they'll probably retweet you. In fact, to all the people following that. But we appreciate, you know, I appreciate you guys being here, and yeah, thanks very much for supporting it.
Mike Shinoda, thank you.